Hello again and welcome back to the Cloud Chalet. Today we're going to pick back up on our discussion around end-user computing. I'm joined again by Tom and Grant. Hey fellas.
Hello.
Hello.
So 25% of Nutanix nodes run VDI. Why do we have such a solid history with that workload?
So if you look at the kind of the history of Nutanix in general, when we first came to market, we needed a workload, a product to go after. So we looked at the VDI space and we looked at the issues that kind of traditional infrastructure had, and we thought, right, let's go and attack that workload and do it better than how everyone else was doing it.
Yeah, I mean, if we dive into the technical side of things around that as well, there was a point where it was the year of VDI, okay? Everybody was looking to roll out VDI environments, but when you look at existing SAN infrastructures, three-tier part around that, and you've got spinning disks, the performance from spinning disks for desktops which are IOPS hungry to a degree and don't provide you the performance you need across there with those spinning disks. So with the way that Nutanix works and the way we write data always to a local SSD, we get the best possible performance for it as well. Also, it's the scalability side of things. Tom and I were talking previously about if you're lucky enough to do like a 2,000 seat VDI deployment, or more realistically smaller than that, you're not going to deploy all those seats day one, are you?
Yep.
You're going to start out with like 10 people, test the water, see how that goes, and then scale it out as you go on, 50, 100, and then you start to really snowball and roll on and on and on and start to do 500. And you don't want to then go ahead and deploy racks and racks of physical infrastructure day one for those 5, 10, 50 users that you want to test the water with.
Yep.
And because of our scalable infrastructure, we start a node at a time, means that we can add more users in incremental blocks.
And I think one of the best things around that modular piece is all the other business units, the other workloads kind of looked at what we were able to do with VDI and how we kind of simplified that entire deployment and said, well, hang on, let's start doing this in our workloads, which is where you've seen kind of that VDI piece stay constant, but also the rise of actually running things like enterprise applications on top of Nutanix. That's growing kind of tenfold because it's that simplicity and the ease of management that traditionally three-tier architecture just didn't give.
Yeah,
Okay.
agreed.
So it sounds to me from a cost perspective that could be quite a large thing to swallow up front. Is it generally more expensive than running physical desktops?
Well, no, not really. I mean, if you look at and what Grant was just referring to around that kind of that modular, you don't need to buy everything up front.
Right.
You don't need to buy your 5-year capacity day one, because actually that in 5 years, the users may be doing very different things to what they're doing the day that you bought it.
Okay.
So actually being able to say, well, I've got this box, it runs 50 users or it runs 100 users. I then know that every time I need to onboard more users, all I need to do is say, right, I need 3 more blocks or 4 more blocks.
Okay.
And I don't have to worry about kind of SANs hitting their bottlenecks and kind of trying to work out what part in the stack is causing me the problem.
Yeah, and if we compare that to a physical desktop infrastructure, okay, potentially any data center infrastructure is going to be more expensive than a physical desktop infrastructure across there. I'll get there in the end. Well, that's my age, it really is. Yeah, thanks. But to that point, you go and deploy a physical desktop, you go and deploy them in an office of 500 people. Okay, the desktops may be cost effective to a degree, but the man hours to deploy it, the man hours to update it, the operating system updates you've got to do on it. If something fails, what you've got to do there is get somebody into that office to rip it out, so it's not an instant refresh across it. The fact is, if also you want to improve the performance, it's getting somebody to the desk, install some more RAM in it. I mean, I could go on and on and on. Even as I talk, you can just see
I get you.
Talking a lot longer than Tom just saying about incremental blocks for the data center.
Yeah, because when organisations used to size traditional 3-tier architecture, they'd say, building 30, 40, 50%. But what you guys are saying here is that you can fractionally consume the Nutanix platform as your VD environment grows.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Spot on.
Okay, so that kind of answers the question for traditional users, but what about CAD design? They're pretty hefty, meaty desktops. Can you do something similar with Nutanix and support those types of applications?
So Nutanix absolutely supports running GPUs in some of their nodes for exactly that reason. So for your CAD developers, where actually these guys could have machines that cost tens of thousands of pounds normally. And it's having that ability to actually still have the same security policies, have the same control, but bringing that back into the data center piece. So working with some of our kind of graphics partners, we absolutely have the capability to support that.
Yeah, whatever you can do with a physical GPU, it can be virtualized
Yes.
nowadays. As Tom was saying, for some of our partners who create these GPU cards, they create virtual GPUs. And that's supported on a number of hypervisors, including Nutanix's own hypervisor AHV. So there's an option there to utilize the Nutanix platform, the Nutanix hypervisor, and have that vGPU capability for those heavy workloads, those graphically
You get a
intense
consistent
work.
look and feel.
Yeah, totally, yeah.
Exactly that. And also, again, removing a silo from the data center per se. So you don't have your CAD users in their own little bubble, separate to all the other kind of users that are either in a hosted or virtual desktop environment.
Okay.
And these CAD users, you know what, they like to show off their big PCs, don't they? They like
They
to have it
do.
under their desk. You can still have that big PC there with a couple of flashing lights and not a lot of hardware in it, but connected back to your data center. So win-win.
Okay. Cool. Thank you, chaps. Appreciate your input.
Thank you very much.
That
Thank
brings
you.
our discussion on end-user computing to a close. Join us here next time in the Cloud Chalet, where we pick up on private cloud.